back for a guru's rant. I've been gone. I've been really busy with work, life, and training, and doing a lot of things for my career, so I haven't had a chance to make these videos, but some of you have requested some things, so I'm going to go ahead and answer them for you. Hopefully I give you the answer you're looking for. There's so much stuff and information out there now on YouTube and Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapcrap, and there's so much C-Lot now. You know, everybody does C-Lot now, right? Everybody's into C-Lot. I'm seeing more and more C-Lot creep its way into Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they're now calling it spider guard and monkey guard and this and that. And we know where it comes from. We've been doing it for 20 years, 20 plus years. And some have been doing it a lot longer. More power to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community. But I can tell you that they're taking a lot from Harimau, from Moniet. Okay. In fact, one of my students is number 2 in the Pan Americans here in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Miami, Florida. And he's also a Harimau player. And so he's told me he's used some of his C-Lot, the stuff that he can get away with without getting disqualified. So it's interesting. I mean, you kind of can't avoid evolution, and eventually people take from everywhere, just like C-Lot took from things too. So we'll talk about that a little bit. What I want to talk about today is somebody posed a question, asking me to talk about the Pantjar. Okay. The Pantjar, and I'll give you, again, this is going to be from the perspective of Serak from the DeThouars family, okay? The Pantjar means web, okay? It goes back to the old Vedic tradition or ancient Hindu tradition of Indra's web. The god Indra was the god of lightning, and he had a web that he traveled on. So the web, or let's say the Pantjar, for training, it's used to develop your foot placement, which is your langkah, your strategy of where to step, when to step. So in other words, strategy of evading, strategy of moving offensively, strategy of moving into an attack or out of an attack, timing, all that has to do with that. Another aspect of your Pantjars or your langkahs is training the strategy of where to hit and when to hit. So you can think of it as target selection. You can also think of it of target placement. You can also think of it of when and how to strike with your hands, your elbows, your palms, your fists, when to strike with your legs, your knees, your hips, your shins, your feet. Ultimately, you learn to strike with the whole body. So then it goes back to positioning, when and how and where to put your position based on the Pantjar. The Pantjar is a series of lines contained into various geometric shapes. Usually you see a Pantjar as 4 squares and the lines connecting all the 4 squares, like the British flag. Okay, that's the standard Pantjar you normally see. That actually has a name. It's called Pantjar Sliwa. Okay, and the Pantjar has many dimensions. All langkahs have many dimensions. You have the basic, which is what everybody sees, where the lines go from shoulder to shoulder, or where it's double shoulder length, so that's where you start seeing wider bases. And then you used to have stuff that are subdivided, where it's half shoulder or half stance. And again, this I'm going over briefly. There's a lot of detail in this, and one would really need to come train with me or somebody who knows this stuff. You could go see Uncle Bill. You could go see students of Uncle Bill that are qualified. There's a lot of them. You could also go train with people that trained with Pantjar Paul DeThouars, who really trained with Pantjar Paul, not not the people that did 2-3 weekends and now they're Mahagurus running around, right? I'm not going to go into names or politics because then they'll demonetize my account and they'll report me, because they didn't get a trophy. You could also go see Horacio from Pakvik. He knows a lot. He knows a great deal. And Pakvik had a lot of good information. All the brothers had knowledge of the Pantjar. Maurice, Uncle Maurice, Uncle Paul, Uncle Willem, he still has a great deal of knowledge. And Uncle Victor. Now, Uncle Willem, in my humble opinion, has taken the Pantjar to such a level of understanding where his Pantjar just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, to the point where if you don't have a trained eye, you don't see it, and you think that he's moving chaotically. But when you start to understand what he really does, you start to really understand that he's working dimensionally on the Pantjar. And I don't say that in a mystical way. That's not what I mean at all. I mean, it's so refined and so precise, but on a very small, minute level. Like the minutia is very well refined. The micro use of the body. Okay, and that's something you see in high-level internal martial artists, in really good Tai Chi players, really good Baguazhang players, really good Xingyi players, Bai Ji Chuan. And you see that in Serak. It's really there. A lot of people would argue that that's not true, but a lot of people also don't know what they're talking about. So anyhow, the Pantjar, back to the Pantjar. You can train your target selections, where to hit, how to hit, where to step, where not to step, where to evade, where to move offensively, where to realign yourself, where to reposition yourself within structure. There's always new structures. There's not just one. Okay. The other thing about the Pantjar is strategy of throws. How you throw somebody into somebody else. How you make that person land and where you want them to land. Okay. There's some schools of thought, and I'm not going to say names. There's some schools where they like to throw the person away from them pretty far. That's not the way Pendecker Paul did it, and that's not the way Uncle Maurice did it, and that's not the way Uncle Bill does it. Instead, they have you land right where they want you, whether it's in front of them or directly behind them or to the side, but close enough where they can continue to jack you up if they needed to jack you up on the ground. So it's very precise and very strategic, and all your throws, your sapus, besets, kenjits, tar kapala, your puta kapalas, your lempar lengans, your ankats, all that stuff has to be trained on the Pantjar on various lines, various vertices, various hash marks. You have to understand how and when to use them so that the opponent falls where you want them. You dictate how and when and where the opponent falls so that you can continue to control the situation or continue to hit or continue to break whatever they're doing. A really good Serak player, when they throw you in a manner where the person cannot break fall or they cannot land in a kuda to fight back. So that's very important, and the way you train that is from the Pantjar. Okay. So what else? So okay, let's talk a little bit more. So the Pantjar, the one that everybody has seen, right? The picture that you see from the DeThouars, it's a triangle on the bottom, a square on the top, like a four square. Okay, and then on the top there's a little square. Okay. Right now I'm driving, so I can't really draw it out for you, but you've all seen it. If you look at any DeThouars video or any website of anybody who teaches the DeThouars art, they usually have a Pantjar somewhere on the floor or on their logo, or it's drawn somewhere. It's a very similar matrix, if you will, to what's found in Ed Parker's Kempo. And there is some correlation to that. They didn't take it from Ed Parker, but I think both parties influenced each other at one point. But I can tell you where the DeThouars got it from. So the Pantjar originally was just a triangle, a square, a triangle, a cross, and then a square on the top. And it looks like a little stick figure of a human being. And that's what it is. It's a map of the human body, both vertically and horizontally. That was later. I'm going to have to make a part 2. I'll pause this.